Hi, it's MJ from Lioness Publications, and welcome to the 10th House Briefing. And this is for September 28th of 2025. We've got a few items to discuss. Now, this is a recap of this week, and sometimes I go back just a little bit further if there's something that is important to discuss. So let's get started. First one we have up is Mark Zuckerberg. And looking at his charts, they really, he seems to not get an idea of what's going on in the world. Most of it is things about his vision with Facebook, with Meta. So he's having trouble with that. And I think that sort of colors everything. And I think the political piece is sort of something, political stuff that goes around. It's not something that really impacts him directly. So that was the impression I was getting when I was looking at his chart. And it is a tough quarter for him because he's got a lot of inconjuncts, and that means he just can't get to the vision he wants. But again, my question is he even aware of what's going on in the country? And he may not be. Okay, next one is Oracle. And this is specifically Larry Ellison. And this has to do with the TikTok deal. And it looks like this is going to go through. It looks like Oracle, via Larry Ellison is going to be involved in this. And I did this from Larry Ellison's chart. And the reason this is important is that we have all these tech people now starting to take control of the media. So we have Bezos, who has the Washington Post. We have the X, or Twitter. And now we have possibly TikTok. And they're all buddies of Trump. So this is a concern democracy-wise, freedom-wise, whether or not we're going to be getting truth or propaganda. Now, what it appears to happen is it looks like the deal does go through, but at some point, there's going to be controversy about some of the details in the deal. I wouldn't be surprised if China pulls back. And there's also, and this is not this year, it's next year, it's going to be a problem implementing it. I don't know if it's going to be affecting the users. Maybe users will rebel against it. I didn't go that far into it, but it looks like there's going to be trouble actually getting this done. There's a lot more to it than most people realize. Now, the next one we have is South Korea. Now, South Korea has a unique culture. They're very social, and like I said, it's a unique culture. They were opening, and they're very tech. They have, it's one of the things they can export, they can make money on. They had a plant that they were opening up in Georgia, and they had their workers there to get the plant running, which is normal. Some things you don't hire local talent for because you're only using it right when you're sort of bringing up a facility. But what happened was ICE raided the place, and they took literally all the people that were there to help get the plant started. And they supposedly had visas. Is the question whether they were the right type or not. So, granted, I don't want to delve into that without knowing too much. But you would think that a company that's coming into the States to do business, if they have a problem with visas, they'd be able to work it out so that people could get the right visas. But in this case, ICE just rounded them up. And then they were treated horribly by ICE in the facilities. South Korea, when they started hearing the stories coming back, was sort of pulling back, saying, well, we have to talk to you, make sure this doesn't happen again. But now there's another wrinkle in this whole thing. What happened is that they made some type of deal, trade deal. The details weren't all out. But South Korea, over some period of time, would be investing a certain amount of money in the United States. Well, Trump has somehow turned that deal around to say all that money that they were going to be investing over a few years, that South Korea is going to give it to Trump in the United States right now. And by the way, we don't know where all this money is going. We don't know where it's ending up in, let's say, in whose bank accounts. So in this case, Trump actually said, well, no, we need all that money up front. And South Korea doesn't have it. So now there are negotiations that are going to be happening because of that. But that's significant. Other countries will be looking at this and saying, what do you mean? They had a deal. Trump changed it. So now let's take a look at the next one. And that is Pete Hegseth. And this is about the meeting for next week. And I wasn't going to do his chart, but I said, I need to know what's going on in his chart. And by itself, it is not really very concerning. But when you take into effect that he's going to be bringing over all the leaders of the military and bringing them into one place, and I'm seeing things with control here in his chart, then it's starting to raise a red flag. It's also raising a red flag that Trump is now going to be at this meeting. So that's another flag. Biggest flag, though, is that I did charts on Virginia, and I really suggest you go back there and look at it on the state of Virginia, and I did it for the elections. But I was concerned about what I was seeing in the state of Virginia's chart, that I said, I have to do this one separately. Because I see possibly military action, I see some aggression possibly against military, against people. So there's a lot to unpack there. So I suggest you go back there and look at it. Taking into account what I'm seeing with Hegseth's chart, and now with Trump coming, I would definitely say that they're going to be looking for some type of oath of loyalty from the military brass. So definitely keep your ears open to that, because that will be a significant development. Now, I do want to come back on one thing from last week, and that's Disney. Nothing major, but someone brought up a really good question. And that was whether or not the investors in the company are concerned enough that this is going to impact earnings. Well, number one, it may impact earnings. And their earnings are coming out the end of this. They're not coming out. Their quarter ends at the end of this month, which means their earnings won't be out until probably beginning mid-November. So there is concern, because for about a week or so, they had less activity. But there's also concern just in general because tariffs and travel to the United States is down. So there will be the impact to their bottom line. Now, whether it's the investors, as I noted in the response to that comment, it doesn't look so much like the investors, because I mentioned something else was coming back in December on that time frame. It's a Pluto angle, and that Pluto angle from Disney's chart looks like it's coming from institutions, which would be something like the FCC. So I foresee that Trump is going to come back in some way or another to try and get back at Disney. The investors, on the other hand, would be the first house is Capricorn, so they will be ruled by Saturn. And I'm not seeing any Saturn angles. Doesn't say that it's not going to happen next year. But at this point, I think the bigger concern is the government. So now let's take a look at the last one that I just did was Oregon. And, I know a lot of people are worried about this. And I was worried too until I looked at the chart, and I'm not seeing, and again, I can't see everything from these charts because I don't have the time of birth. So there may be stuff that I'm missing, but I'm not seeing anything significant from the major angles that's saying, yes, there's going to be a domestic incident here. I am seeing, things like Uranus coming in, the sun conjuncting Saturn. So again, that's the leadership under pressure. So they're going to have to, step it up. I'm seeing maybe some laxness where they really need to get some stuff done. Maybe look at their laws, regulations to see if they can keep this from happening again. And as I was looking at this, I was getting a sense that this may be the first state that's sort of, able to deal with it at a level that they can maybe show other states how to deal with it. So it was just something that I was saying. But in general, I mean, they have, their Jupiter is trying Neptune, so it's actually a good time for them to think about, their vision for the future. They've got Uranus conjunct Uranus, so that for a state can mean just a lot of technology things, a lot of changes, good changes, sometimes difficult changes coming up. Now, I did see some stuff in the transits that's sort of what I consider not so much a minor, but not a major angle, and that's Mars. A lot of people think, oh, Mars is going to hit a chart, it's going to be bad things happening. But Mars is only there for a few days. And usually, to get some significant event, usually means a building up. So it's when you think of things building up like a volcano, it's a Pluto angle. When you think of things getting fogged over, the religious angle, it's a Neptune. And those take months, so it comes and it comes back, it goes, it comes back. So it takes months to sort of form up, to actually produce like a mass event. And what I'm seeing in Oregon state's chart, the Mars is opposing Pluto, transiting Mars against the natal Pluto, which again could be some type of coercion. It could be isolated incidents, but I'm not seeing anything overtly aggressive, on the whole, where, not more than people would have thought of anyway. So that's what I have to cover in this 10th house briefing. Now, important thing to watch is what happens with that meeting next week. As I mentioned, it might be that they're trying to get a loyalty test from the generals, or I should say the top brass, but it could be that they don't have enough power. They can't get to that point. So it could be they bring them all together. They try and get some type of acknowledgement, that yes, we can attack civilians, we can, do a war against them. And I don't know if they're going to be able to get that, but we'll have to see. Okay, I didn't want to spend too much time on that again, because sometimes you want to do it and then maybe come back in a while, look at it again, make sure you're right. And I thought it's just important to make sure people know that this is a significant event. I hope you enjoyed this and have a great evening. Bye now.